Hey, are you just lazy or are you unmotivated? If you're looking to start or change your career, but you're feeling unmotivated in your job search, then this video is going to help you not only understand why, but it's also going to provide you with a framework for reigniting your energy and re-engaging into your job search. We're going to be diving into the psychology of motivation, outlining 3 common issues that young adults and midlife professionals experience in their career transition, and we're going to discuss some strategic tips to overcome procrastinating so that you can move forward in your job search and find satisfying, financially secure work without sacrificing your work-life balance. My name is Scott with Life Sketch. I'm known as the ADHD career coach. And after 15 years in mental health as well as career development, I've seen hundreds of clients who get stuck in this gap between knowing what they should be doing and actually following through. They know they should be doing more job searching, more networking, more applying, more career development. But despite the pressure and expectations of others, and as well as their own desire, they still find themselves procrastinating the job search. If you're resonating with that, you might feel a little crazy, but I'm here to tell you it might be more than just being lazy. As you know, when we procrastinate, the more you avoid, the worse it gets. Every day that goes by, every week goes by, the decisions are getting harder, the confusion compounds, and you're missing opportunities, leaving money on the table, afraid that you might be stuck in this transition forever. But I'm here to actually tell you it gets worse, because this exacerbates everything. As the cycle continues and you're spinning in stress and frustration, this leads to exhaustion and burnout, further eroding your confidence and motivation. And you may be hoping to hit rock bottom, but never actually quite finding it. Okay, that's pretty intense, which is why we're here discussing why you're unmotivated to find a job and what you can do about it. So if you need to start or change your career, expedite your job search, and be more productive, stick around. Let's start with some bad advice. Just do it. Right? Most career advice, most people's in this situation comes from a simple Nike slogan. And if that worked, then you wouldn't be watching this video. But if you're stuck in that gap and you're just promising yourself that you'll get started tomorrow or do it later, then you know it's more complex than just doing it. For example, how to be fit, exercise, eat well, sleep. And it seems simple, but we know it's not easy. Because we're not just robots, we're complex human beings. And when just do it isn't working, then it's time to address the motivational level of why we do what we do. So what is motivation anyway? It's essentially our drive and desire to do something. It's complicated because these are 2 separate concepts that are actually intertwined. There's the psychology of what we're thinking, and this is really our desire for something, the reason and then the intention for why we want that thing that we're pursuing. Then there's also the neuroscience of how we feel about something. This is what we call our drive. That's the energizing behavior that really makes us willing to do something. Let's look at some of the signs and symptoms of motivational issues in one's career and job search. Our first sign is indecision and overthinking, where you're thinking about all the different possibilities of what you could be doing, should be doing, where you could be going, what you want, and all the different potential risks and rewards. They come in, and we're thinking so much that we start to get anxious, and then eventually we get overwhelmed. And in that overwhelmed, it's almost like tripping a circuit breaker, where then we start to feel withdrawn and we actually disengage from the stuff that we're supposed to be doing. We're going to get mental, emotional, and physical fatigue or exhaustion. And eventually we start to seem apathetic. It might seem like you don't care, but obviously you wouldn't be anxious if you didn't care. Where it does start to lead, though, is feeling hopeless about your situation and really helpless for being able to do anything in that. So let's talk about what's actually causing some of this low motivation. There are 3 overarching factors that negatively impact our motivation and keep us stuck or getting back on track. They're anxiety, which is a fear response that really impacts our motivation. There's ambivalence, which is that feeling torn and uncertain. And then there's our ambiguity, of feeling lost and confused. The job search is filled with uncertainties and potential threats and certain discomfort. And these are going to trigger our natural fear response of fight, flight, or freeze. Let's look at the most 3 types of insidious fears that happen in our job search. First is our fear of failure and rejection, which is rampant in the job search. I don't know if there's any more acute amount of rejection or potential rejection that can happen than inside of a job search. And when we're hypersensitive to criticism or exclusion or embarrassment, this can really trigger this fear, which is a persistent anxiety of anticipated dejection and disappointment. Often we find ourselves focusing on the negative, filtering out the positive, and avoiding any sort of social discomfort from applying or networking or interviewing. And closely associated is that fear of failure, which is where we are afraid of not meeting our own or others' expectations and not achieving what we intended to or feeling adequate. This is often fueled by perfectionism, where we want to be right or flawless and have excessively high standards. Both of these start to really turn on any sort of anxiety types symptoms, from feeling tense, racing heart rate, sweating, and nausea. But it's also going to then start to lead to some of that discouragement, a lowering of self-worth, and then ultimately we start to avoid these types of situations. We steer clear of these challenges or opportunities, so we never even get to start to pursue our potential. Another fear associated is the fear of change and the unknown, which triggers our natural anxiety of potential threats in uncertain situations. It's sort of like being afraid of the dark, because when we can't see ahead, we fill in the gaps with monsters. I remember I used to work at a summer camp deep in the Pikes National Forest here in Colorado. And at night, especially in the off season, when it was dark, it was absolutely pitch black. Like you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. But the bathroom was about a 10-minute walk. And I know that every night I had to go out there, every noise or every rustle, every click out there in the dark, I was absolutely sure it was a mountain lion just about to come eat me, or a bear about there to attack. And similar in the job search, we know that the future holds all of the positives and rewards and the good things that we're wanting in the first place. But of course, it also holds all of the potential negatives and the risks associated. So we find ourselves stuck in the status quo. We'd rather deal with the devil we know than the devil we don't. And then we often feel paralyzed dwelling on the worst case scenario. Our last fear that we're going to be talking about, and though it might seem counterintuitive, is this fear of success, which prevents us from also pursuing our goals, achievement, and potential. Nelson Mandela once said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." And many ideas of success can be overwhelming, and here's 5 reasons why. First is the idea of success is going to have this element of sacrifice, where we're going to have to invest our energy and attention, all of that with the risk of failure and rejection. So it feels like a risky investment. And then there's also that fear of not being able to meet our own expectations, or that pressure to maintain success. Another one is this imposter syndrome, where we're feeling like a fraud and we are going to get caught in our career. And then last is the fear of success often can lead to isolation, where we feel like we're actually disconnected others, where we lose our status or our current connections. So this is the fear aspect, which triggers our natural fight, flight, or freeze responses. Our other one is this ambivalence, which is our internal tug of war between conflicting ideas, desires, or values. Think about it as this desire to want a 6-pack, but also while craving a 6-pack and maybe another slice of pizza. This ambivalence leads to indecision and an unwillingness to commit. Ambivalence impacts our willingness to job search, because we often find ourselves unwilling to job search because the gain doesn't outweigh the pain. The problem is the pain is here and now, and the gain is later. The job search, as we just mentioned, is an investment of time, attention, and energy, and it's embedded with anxiety, doubt, and frustration, right? All negative things, all the pain, and it's happening right now. And the reward for this work is nebulous and it's far away. So we might want a higher income and financial independence and to feel more satisfied or like we're making a bigger impact. But again, those things are far away and they're nebulous at boot. And right now, we might want all of those things, aka a new job, but right now we want to watch another video or do more research or do anything else but address this career. And we're also ambivalent because we're not sure about what we actually want. If I'm in this bind between where I feel like I have to either enjoy my job or make money, or if I feel like I have to, I want the freedom of remote work, but I also want to be around other people. When we're feeling in that binary choice, this or that, and we're getting tugged, we often just freeze up. And then we're often stuck and undecided because we're ambivalent about the choices ahead of us. And again, this is not apathetic because we care a lot. This is a fear of commitment where every option is embedded with the pros and cons and the risk and reward of this path or that. And it's going to keep you stuck in this stage of analysis paralysis. This leads to our last factor, which is ambiguity. And this is by far the most significant. Ambiguity is a state of doubt and uncertainty due to a lack of clarity. It makes navigating the career like sailing through a thick fog. We are anxious and ambivalent because we're not sure of ourselves or of our future. And when things are obscure, charting a clear course becomes a daunting task. This ambiguity manifests in three key aspects: lack of self-awareness, lack of career direction, and a lack of framework and accountability. Lack of self-awareness. Without a clear understanding of who we are and what we want, we don't know our interests, our values, our priorities, makes informed career decisions near impossible. And when we're uncertain about our strengths, our skills, or where we fit, we often drift without a destination. And this lack of clarity erodes our confidence and makes us continue to feel even more lost. And then we have a lack of our direction. Without a mapped out plan, it's like steering without a compass. No career trajectory. We have no professional identity. We just feel aimless in our job search because you don't know your niche. And without your niche, you have an ineffective job search where you're applying to unrelated roles, getting very few responses, growing frustrated as time goes on. Or worse, you might actually just wind up getting a job you hate. And this brings us to our last problem. And this exacerbates all the other ones we've discussed thus far. Most people don't have any sort of a process, no strategy for developing their career. Right? They sort of think it's this one and done task where you just think about what you're interested in, boom, all is right. So we lack a framework or a plan for choosing and cultivating our career, which leads us to feel overwhelmed by the complexity as we're bombarded by all the shoulds and should nots that you should be doing in this. You also might feel disorganized and feel scattered and have no idea where to start. And then this is also because it's ineffective and outdated advice. You know, right back to this just do it mentality, or what I call the spray and pray, which is, you know, just apply to any old job and try to get one, which ends up taking and wasting a ton of time and effort. And worse, through all this, without our framework, we're also alone in this process. We don't have a lot of feedback. There's not a lot of support. There's no accountability and certainly no perspective. So it can feel like you can't get out of your situation. And in the face of anxiety, ambivalence, and ambiguity, finding clarity and direction is absolutely crucial. Developing this strategic framework and seeking accountability can help clear the fog, allowing you to navigate your career path with confidence and purpose. Now that we've discussed the significant barriers to job search motivation, in our next video, we're going to explore some strategic tips to help you overcome the challenges and reignite your motivation. We're going to be walking through a 5-step framework, a protocol that you can use to increase your motivation during your job search. These 5 steps are going to help you regain your focus, build momentum, and achieve your goals. Okay, so this wraps up part 1. Thanks for your attention. Part 2, we're going to dive into the 5-step process. See you then.